Today I'm going to talk about how I, as a realtor, I'm getting my buyers' offers accepted right now in a really, really challenging market for buyers. So it's the fall of 2023 as I make this recording, and I can really resonate with buyers now, and I'm sure if I'm watching this back in the future, it's going to be the same then as well. Um, I just bought a house last week myself, and I'm an investor, so I am always looking to buy, and no in sync reference intended. And so that allows me to put myself in the buyer's shoes. With both emotionally, physically, numerically. There's a lot of ways I can resonate with buyers. So it's a really challenging market right now. The higher interest rates than we're used to, combined with the lower inventory, makes it really challenging for a buyer. So a couple strategies I've utilized in the past couple months. So I have two. I just had two closings recently for buyers that I've represented, and both of those purchases for those buyers were not on market homes. Now they weren't necessarily off market, so I'll explain a little more in depth. If it's an off market home, that means it was never listed to the public. And I have a video of me buying my off market duplex last week. I posted already. So that idea is totally off market. I was able to think a little more strategically for these buyers. They were way different buyers, had different needs. All right. One ended up buying a four-family home. The other ended up buying a condo. So it really ranges with the price point and strategy overall. But I'll start with the four-family home. The uh, the buyer that I was working with for the four-family home, we were looking for multifamilies up to a certain amount, and of course, it was an FHA purchase, so they were able to move into the property. But of course, there's also a numbers game behind it, more so than the average purchase, because they were house hacking. So they want to make sure it's a good market. There's great numbers. There's rent growth, maybe MTR or STR strategy as well, which I was able to help with. A lot of exit strategies, but it's a house hack, so it's a little different than a typical purchase. We were looking on market for a while, and we came across this one deal or this one listing that was listed for 900,000, and it was a four family. We saw the home. We decided that it was worth 775 based on the numbers and the projections that we put together. So we offered 775. It got rejected. Now, that's fine. We expected that, right? It's way under asking price. Again, the market is competitive for buyers, so we were not necessarily expecting to get accepted. But I really like the strategy of putting something in writing because now you exist to the listing agent and the sellers. Before that, if I even just said, "Hey, 775 on the phone," and the listing agent would be like, "No, we're not going to accept that." I don't care. I'm going to put it in writing because now we exist. Now we have a relationship and there's communication if something else doesn't work out. And that's exactly what happened here. So we went way under ask and got rejected. We looked at other places. We even got an offer accepted on another place, and then they during attorney review, another offer beat us out, and we couldn't match it. So that happens. It's part of the game. Excuse me. So after, I guess, a frustrating 30 days of lack of inventory, I noticed that that house, that four family that we offered on under asking, was withdrawn. So originally they had accepted an offer, and most situation, probably most realtors, when they see there's an offer accepted on the MLS, they probably will forget about it in their brain. I went and checked on it and noticed it was withdrawn from the MLS. So yes, it was in attorney review, in under contract, and then it got updated to withdrawn. I put auto emails to myself. So if that situation, so once we put an offer in writing as a buyer's agent, and there's ever a change in status, which includes under contract to sold or under contract to withdrawn, like this one, I get alerted. I email myself. I send an auto email to myself for a situation like this. It's exactly what happened. So the day it got withdrawn from the listing agent, I called her back and I said, "Hey, remember me? I put in that really low offer. You probably hate me, LOL. But what's the deal?" And she said, well, the buyer couldn't get financing because the rents aren't high enough for an FHA, for an FHA purchase, the self-sufficiency test. It kind of gave me the whole idea. And the sellers are okay with just waiting until a couple more months to relist it. And I said, well, what can we do? Time is money here because your sellers are investors. What can we do to get an offer accepted? She said, 800. Okay, wow. So I'm like, wait, we offered 775. You're saying just if we met you at 800, we have an offer? We have a deal? She said, put it in writing. 800 I know is what the sellers want, and I'll present it. So had I not made the offer originally in writing, I don't think that we're having that conversation. Had I not, of course, alerted myself to the fact that this home was withdrawn, she didn't call me. I called her. So I don't think that we would have, we would have never known that it was withdrawn. I got a number 100,000 under asking price from the original asking price out of her. I call my buyer and I let her know how the conversation went. We put in an offer at 800, and we find a deal. There was some cash for keys involved. There were some other nuances that we have to get creative. Great. It worked out. We closed. My buyer now has a 4-family in an outstanding area. Generational wealth. And I'm so proud of them for doing that. So that was one example. I'm going to move on to the second. It's a condo purchase for a different buyer. And this was also not off market, but on market in a different way. So very, very competitive market as well for condo buyers. All my buyer wanted was a 1-bedroom condo in various different areas, but up to a certain point, up to a certain other criteria. But 1-bedroom condos are really, really high demand. So we put in multiple offers, over asking, went through the whole runaround with the on-market situation, weren't getting, we were not being successful. So I said, you know what, let me dig into for rent. So what I mean by that is I'm going to look at all the condos that fit the buyer's criteria that aren't listed for sale, but they're listed for rent. And my strategy is if I see something listed for rent, I'm going to call the agent. If I notice that the listing has been on the market for a long time and they're having trouble finding a tenant, even better. So that's how I started. So I called a listing agent that had a condo for rent for 60 days and it was not being rented. So I said, would the seller consider selling if I presented you an offer? I'll schedule a showing right now. It's on the market for on the MLS for rent, but we want to put in an offer. So if you give me any sense that the seller might accept an offer, I'll schedule a showing right now. That happened. She said, yeah, you know what? We're considering selling it. This would be the price. Let me know. I'm like, hell yeah. So I call my buyer. We go and see this place for rent. We match their offer price, their phantom list price. But, we of course, my biggest concern was, okay, what if we put this in writing now? We make this offer and the seller says, wow, that was easy. Let me put this to the market and try to get more offers. So I was really aggressive with my approach to the listing agent. I put it in writing and in words, like, we are out if this hits the market. I can promise you my buyer doesn't need to buy something. I went into the whole situation about why we would be out. So you're making a huge mistake if you mess around with us. And it worked. They accepted our offer. They did not play any games. And we ended up getting a deal. Now, there's a little more to this story. During the process, my buyer's funding was challenging. So they originally wanted to put less money down, but because the condo association was somewhat underfunded, the lender was requiring a higher down payment. And that happens with condos often. So what was really awesome, and this is like my favorite part, and it didn't even happen this way, but I enjoyed the creativity behind it, is I said, I asked the listing agent, I said, can we do seller financing? Because your seller was listing for rent. So they understand passive income already. That's what tells me that. They originally didn't want to sell, they wanted to rent it. And they see the value in residual income. There's passive income, sure, whether you're a landlord and that's passive or not, that's up for interpretation. But seller finance is literally passive. There's nothing hiding, right? It's all through attorneys. You're buying, the buyer would, buy it, and the seller would just be the bank. And they seemed like a really awesome candidate to benefit both parties, where my buyer can put down less money because, again, they wanted to. Up until this condo questionnaire situation, they were planning on doing that. And then the sellers now have a passive income stream that they wanted from the start. That was sort of verbally agreed to, and the terms were being discussed. And then the sellers ultimately said, you know what, no, I don't want to do that. And that was a whole nother conversation, and that's fine. The buyer ended up putting down more money to secure the condo, which is now already worth more than they bought it for. But it was a really cool nuance to the deal that almost happened. So that's it. 2 deals I closed recently that, a lot of people say realtors, I don't know, are door openers, or they just, use Zillow and do what you could do also. And that might be true in some cases. My last 2 closings, that is completely untrue. Without the networking and the communication and the drive to buyers, would not be buyers. And I'm proud of that, and I really value myself towards that. So the handle's Jake Handler NJ on all social media platforms if you want to give me a follow. If not, that's cool. I won't follow you back. Thanks for listening, and have a good day.